to the cloud. Uh-oh.
I just turned off my ringers there.
Okay. Yeah, I sometimes get these annoying phone calls that uh, on my system it's hard to shut it off.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So is everybody having a good day?
Oh, excuse me.
yeah, pretty much.
That's good.
John, it looks like you've got a cold, maybe?
I may be getting a cold. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Hey, I just looked up. Well, I know these different cures for colds, and if you catch it early, you won't get the cold. So some people don't believe in this. They like, but anyway, you can get. I might as well tell you all at the beginning here, off topic. These things work every time for me, at least to some degree. Well, echinacea, for one thing, will, if you take it early, it'll knock out a cold. But it's not very effective once the cold gets a hold of you. But another thing is zinc lozenges. They originally were made by Zicam, but now they're generic, and you have to take them every 3 hours. And you can stretch it. You don't have to go every 3 hours, and they're not really that expensive, the generic ones. But you have to read the directions. You have to take them. It'll knock out, even in the middle of a cold. It'll shorten the length of the cold, and within about 3 days, or within 2 days, you'll start to definitely feel better. And then once the symptoms, you notice that they're gone, you still have to take it for 2 more days. Otherwise, the germ reproduces itself, and the cold will come back on you. I know that by experience. And the other thing is, they had Zicam also now. They had problems with their zinc nasal swabs, so they had to change because people were losing their smell. So they changed to this other formula, but they also make zinc swabs, and those I like because they don't mess with your taste buds. But it's the same thing that they keep the germ from reproducing itself. So you have to take it every 3 or 4 hours, and then 2 days afterwards. And then the other thing I just found on the internet, and this I don't know for sure, but some doctor in the 20s found out that if you put uh, um, peroxide in your ears, 5 minutes for each ear, twice, 2 times, 5 minutes each time, that it will stop the germ, because evidently the germ, one of its initial places it reproduces inside your ears. So you can look it up if you want. I found it.
Good. Thank you.
Good tips.
I really swear by the zinc lozenges and the swabs. So I was doing my daily contemplations, which takes me away from doing mantra, but I get a lot of not always, but a lot of times I get a sense of freedom, and it if I keep keep my focus away from making, I don't know how exactly I do. I keep my focus open to, like, this open flow of ideas that comes into my mind that undermines this openness. Well, if I keep open, it will undermine my concepts, and I just keep doing that. I keep undermining my concept, one concept after another, and bring the concept into openness, and then it reveals that that it's not really, it has no concept that has any self basis, or it's only a self basis. It's like every concept is only confined to its own conceptuality or something like that. And so I'll come up with like an open concept that keeps, and I'll like circulate around that open concept. For instance, today's open concept was impartiality. I was recognizing that if I remain impartial, or if I can notice that aspect of me and the aspect of reality that is impartial to my tendency to be partial, because and my tendencies are always to be concerned with my own self, which is anything that has to do with own is always partial. But if I can notice impartiality, that it's actually present, that's actually the reality of everything, because everything impartially changes, everything, you can't control it. Reality is impartial to you, whether you live or die or in pain or not, stuff like that. So I just wanted to, I don't know, I guess bring up impartiality and we have to, I don't know, it's something that can only be seen within yourself. You can't like help others to see it. But so anyway, if anybody else has any exchange on that, I don't know. Like I could end up getting hung up on the concept of partiality or impartiality, but as long as I remain open, it doesn't, the impartiality reveals itself or something.
Well, I mean, again, and I'm sure you know, all of that's just mind stuff, and it's just going around in the circle. Like
but it actually opens. It opens the circle, though. The circle, the way I look at it, the circle is the own self, and then even I refer back to one time I know Nisargadatta said, you have to think your way out of this.
No, well, okay. I mean, if it works, if it's doing good for you, mantra is the only way. Staying in touch with your selfless self through mantra and not allowing this flow of thoughts. If you allow a flow of thoughts, then you create an I am somebody else. And if you can't get rid of that I am somebody else, you're going to be clearing doubts and looking at different concepts for eternity.
Right. I could see where, it might not take me to the absolute continuously as much as a mantra would, but it does open me into
But the me, the I am somebody else, the me that's doing all this stuff, again, like Maharaj would say, prior to being this or after leaving the body. And if this is good, if you can be on your deathbed, so to speak, and be doing this inquiry and whatever this kind of thing is and this mental thing, and you have complete peace in leaving the body, then okay, it's just whatever. But if you want to live completely as your own self, free of these concepts, free of this I am somebody else, in that realized state, so to speak, and not have any more illusory concepts covering you over, then all of what you just said is just mental enjoyment, that your mind is enjoying, pretending like you're gaining some ground and doing something. And if that makes you happy, that's cool. But Master, who is your own selfless self, has told you, if you want to know yourself, just remain with your selfless self through mantra and forget everything you've read, forget everything you've learned, forget all concepts, and just erase, 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 erase.
And when you do erase, you enter the openness, though, right?
Well, there's no openness because there's no position. You're just finished.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm using words. I don't know what else to call it other than
understood. But I'm just saying there. Again, all that I did and all I can speak about was Master said, do mantra. mantra, and you will start to see that all this thinking mind will go away. You're reminding yourself, refreshing your memories, because you are not body, you were not body, you're not going to remain the body. So just milling over the different body-based concepts and trying to find an opening in the body-based concepts is like a Rubik's Cube type thing. It's just going to continue. Okay, now I've got this concept on the orange side. Now I'm going to go and get this concept on the right side or on the red side. And I'm working on the green next. And I'm not trying to criticize. It's just that Master has said.
I want you to. I want the feedback on this. So.
Truly, I think what you're doing is going to create a lot of mind activity, and you absolutely will never realize or never know yourself in a real sense, because you'll continue to build all of these concepts that you're deleting. For every one that you delete or work out, so to speak, you'll add 50 more, because the I am somebody else is the root of all concepts, and you're watering it.
That I could see where that can happen, but also it does. All I can say is by experience, it does turn me loose sometimes to work to beyond concepts. It actually works, but I can't plan on it working. I can't. It's not something I can do and expect a result. It's like sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
But again, I mean, if you've gone into the circle and you've talked and spoken with Maharaj, then you're at your final destination. No need to draw maps or find more nice maps or older maps or overlaying this map on that map. You've reached the final destination. Stop all this thinking and planning and because all it is just trying to stay alive, and you're not. Master has said, remain with your selfless self through mantra. That's it. Forget about every little concept that you think of, every kind of way that you can think of, every design that you can think of. Throw that away. Don't think. And it may be working sometimes or not sometimes or whatever, but the I am somebody else where it's working sometimes or not sometimes doesn't exist, and yet is being kept alive through illusory concepts that are constantly being worked on. The idea is, see, you don't exist. The selfless self, you're inviting the attention of the invisible listener so that it can see, like we talked about, I am not a mouse. I'm not this mouse body. If, in the example of a mouse, the mouse sat there and said, this is not a mouse thing, and this is a cat thing, and this is this thing, and I'm a little bit happier mouse, and it really helps me to feel at peace being a mouse, knowing that I'm not a mouse. But it's inviting the attention of the invisible listener. If that dreamer dreaming that he's a mouse doesn't recognize that he's the dreamer dreaming he's a mouse and still believes he's in that little mouse body, in this little mouse life, trying to not be a mouse, it's never going to work. Nothing. It's just going to be round and round like a dog chasing its tail continuously.
Yeah, I guess I could see what you're saying. Like, I could use another example, I guess, to what did actually sort of verifies your side of what you're saying there.
But it's not my side. That's the truth. That's the ultimate truth. I can say that there's no mind activity in this form. It's finished. There's nothing. Only because Master said, do this. And I did this. That's it. Nisargadatta Maharaj says he concentrated all the time on the I am until he was finished and he found out what his master said. He said after 2 months, he could reread the religious texts and totally, completely understand it at the kindergarten level, because there was no more Nisargadatta Maharaj. There was just that seeing and speaking through the form of Nisargadatta Maharaj, that selfless self that you are, that's now pretending it's Keith on this journey to erase concepts.
Like, what I was going to say, though, is one of my pet concepts is sharing, is a shared sharing, that I see reality as being fundamentally shared and sharing, which means there is no self, because like that matches what Nisargadatta says about nothing is your own. Or there is no individuality, he says. So if I connect with the idea of my pet concept of shared sharing, it undermines my sense of my own self. And like I say, sometimes I will connect with that and it will open me up, but sometimes it's a dead concept. It's, I would say you're probably better off just doing mantra, but
only because Master has said to do that.
Yeah.
You understand? It's like you've given yourself the key, and now you're trying to pick the lock with all your various lock picks that sometimes work and sometimes don't. Use the key. Walk into your own selfless self and out of this idea.
Yeah. Well,
if you want to do that. I mean, there are many people who are going to enjoy the process of doing nothing until that's so completely exhausted that then they may turn and just say, okay, I have the key, I'll go ahead and use it. But I had a hell of a good 10-year run trying to pick the lock.
But also, presenting this to somebody else, they're not going to just say, okay, yeah, I'll accept it, I'll do the mantra, and that's it.
Well, but, I mean, you have to have complete faith in yourself and complete faith in the Master. And the Master is your own selfless self in another form, only because you believe you're a form, so you need a separate form of yourself to tell yourself, hey, you're free, that's it, it's finished. It's just, that's it. I mean, imagine if Nisargadatta, when Siddhameshwara Maharaj says, listen, you're not who you take yourself to be, you are Brahman, and that's it, you're Brahman, okay? And Nisargadatta said, okay, I trust you that I'm Brahman, now I need to understand this, I need to hold on to this idea, I am Brahman, remaining with my selfless self. If you go off on the other paths, that's cool, it's no problem. I mean, I have no, do as you wish,
right,
but it's just not going to, it's going to be absolutely spiritual entertainment, and at the end of your lifespan in this body, as long as you can just say, nobody's dying, I'm not going anywhere, I'm completely and totally just breathe in, breathe out, same as sleeping, I am the selfless self, all is well, then it's fine. But if you are in terror at the end of your life, so to speak, the span of this body, and you're carrying this body knowledge, your death is going to be a terrifying, horrible experience because you're going to totally believe that I am this body and I am dying. And I'm going to be grasping at every single concept that I possibly can in the end because I don't know myself in a real sense. I never met myself in a real sense to know that there's no possibility of dying. That does not even make sense. Once I've met myself in a real sense, I don't need any concept whatsoever. I know I am. I am always. I cannot be not me. You're completely formless. Absolutely formless. All these thoughts, all these ideas, you're using the instrument of body to work this kind of puzzle, but you don't need to do that. So actually working the puzzle is just reinforcing that you're in a body, which you're not. Understand you the selfless self are not, were not, and never will be a body. You're using the body in this dreamlike existence, but you are not the body. And if you identify with the body, then you forgot yourself. And that's why Maharaj says the mantra is refreshing your memories. The mantra will make, I don't know, if you can say in this moment that your mind has finished, that you use your mind occasionally like you would the mouse on your computer, but it's just an instrument and it doesn't matter at all. Most of the time, there's nothing here. And if that works, then that's cool. And I'm not trying to beat up, because it sounds to me like it's very deeply rooted in these concepts, and it would take Maharaj himself to basically like shotgun blast you into the reality.
Well, I'm getting a lot of intuitive value, I guess you could say, out of what you're saying. I really appreciate it. I mean, I need to throw this out there, my precious concept, so I can get feedback on it and see. So that helps me understand. You know?
Yeah, you don't want to fall back into the ditch. You've been given the golden ticket. Don't go out and buy other tickets and hope for another one. Have the golden ticket. Keep it. Every moment is very, very precious. To remain with your selfless self, use mantra, and be with your selfless self. And every time this mind activity starts, no, just ignore, disregard, because it's just keeping that false sense of self alive.
It is like an expanded sense of self, but
still, remember, Maharaj says, in the end, there'll be no experience, no experiencer. That's not how you're experiencing in this body form. That's you, the selfless self. You, the selfless self, have no experience, no experiencer, no witness, no witnesser, yet you're using this body form in this dreamlike state to the best of your ability, but you know yourself in a real sense. I am formless. Everything that is in form is not myself. Everything that is in form has nothing to do with me because I'm formless. Every thought that the mind has, every concept that the mind presents is somewhat in form. I am formless. Prior to beingness and after leaving the body, I am the formlessness. And this something for a time appeared in that nothing, in that formless you. And that's the reality. But that's why you invite the attention of the invisible listener that you are, that I am not body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain the body. Body is not my identity. So this body and all the things that I see are not myself. And I'm not actually experiencing any of it. I can't be. How can the formlessness experience anything in form? Using form, yes. But the formlessness that the form, the manifestation is coming in the unmanifest, and there's nothing. There's no, you, the formlessness, can't be affected by form. You can see that you're using this body, and if this body got hit by a car, then yes, okay, now this body is in the hospital or whatever, but just like the main dreamer of the dream who's dreaming all the characters, if somebody got hit by a car, the story would continue to the hospital, but you, the dreamer, are not affected. You, the selfless self, cannot be touched, cannot be cut, cannot be burned. You are all things. So now you have to refresh your memories. Oh, yes, this looks very real, but it can't be because I remain with my selfless self. I'm absolutely formless, and all these things that are occurring in this form state cannot be myself or mine.
May I get my thoughts about this subject?
Absolutely.
Shankara in I Am That said something like, you must find your own path. Unless you find your own path and walk, it's not really yours, and it won't really take you anywhere. It's turned out, for me, not that I knew it ahead of time, that my path has been basically trying to do what Nisargadatta said through I Am That. Maybe because I like Maurice Friedman's way of putting it. And he said, just go through the necessary steps. Just do what you're told. Obedience is a great solver of problems. But when I think about thinking, the subject matter, what does he say about thinking? And I Am That. He says, a quiet mind is all you need. Excuse me. All things will happen rightly when the mind is quiet. Thinking agitates my mind. I got to think sometimes, yes, but I do a lot of other thinking because somehow it's pleasurable. Like you said, it's kind of a fun thing to do, but it really doesn't lead anywhere. And he says the world seems so overwhelmingly real to you. But you think about it all the time. Cease thinking of it, and it will fade into thin mist. And that's really what I want to do. I want to not be dominated by the world, that outside stuff which comes in and makes me think things and desire things and be afraid of things, all of which leads to nothing. In the end, there's nothing. So that's kind of what I've done. I've just said everything that every decision I make is sort of through the lens of, trying being a normal person in the world. Ultimately, it's through the lens of what would Nisargadatta say about this. And that's sort of my take. It's like, don't think, don't react, just kind of, you got to sometimes, if somebody's picking your pocket, but most of the, he says, use all your leisure time, he says, that's good enough. If you just use your leisure time, you can do that. Don't take on any new obligations, which I have found in the past that I'd want to do that. And thinking, well, he says, don't do that. He says, execute, let go of, all your existing ones, but don't take on any others, and just spend your discretionary time doing the only thing that matters, which is, as he says, coming back to the sense of I am as frequently as you can throughout the day. So to me, thinking, this is just a kind of my own practical way of looking at it, is the antithesis of what Nisargadatta and other people say is what a person needs to do to walk this path. And it can be through a mantra, it can be through different things, but meditation. But whatever you want to do, if you're thinking, you're not meditating. You're not doing, in other words, not thinking kind of clears the path so you can then do whatever you think is your path that you're called to follow. But thinking only delays and interferes with that. So anyway, I want to put that out there in case that helps a little bit. Because thinking has a good reputation, but he says thinking degrades the mind. Thinking is not a good thing. That was the IBM mantra, think, think, think. Not good, not good. It's like a muscle. The more you think, no. The less you think, the more something outside of will guide you. But as long as you're relying upon thinking, it'll say, yeah, I'll help you. Yeah, I'll help you. Even as it leads you to hell. It's saying, believe in me, the mind. Believe in me. And he says, don't trust your mind. And if you think about it, you keep thinking. Every time it wants to have you think, you say, okay, I'll go along with it. I'll yield. You'll just keep doing that. He says at first the mind will rebel. But when you keep saying no, it will eventually yield and keep quiet. And then you can kind of start your spiritual, whatever you need to do, whatever your path calls for. So again, I'm kind of a practical guy. I don't really think too much about theory and stuff. I just said, well, what does he say to do? What does he say about thinking? What does he say about earnestness? What does he say about compassion? And try to do what he says about that. And that's my best formulation right now of what Nisargadatta and I Am That, again, because I like Maurice Friedman, what he says about this matter. And that's what I try to do all the time. Even tuning into this thing tonight, I'm thinking, well, this will stimulate me with, maybe I can help somebody, maybe somebody will help me, I'll get some inspiration or something. But it's not like this is some nice entertainment. I try to make sure that everything, like he says, when you're dead earnest, you bend every incident of your life to your purpose. And that's what I try to do, including things that really used to turn me on, like going out and thinking and planning and imagining, because it was pleasurable. I thought that somehow the world had something to deliver. That's kind of ridiculous to think that there's really something in the world that can increase my happiness. He says throughout everything he says that, the world will leave you empty. It'll not, any pleasure, it won't work. It'll burn itself out. It's not designed for that. Every pleasure is wrapped in pain. But in my case, until I got to the point I went through this consciously, remembering every time I go through this, I think, oh, this is what he said. Why don't I believe the man, And finally I did. But all of it, every single time it would start with me thinking, imagining, going out there. As long as I stay out of imagination, then whatever this thing is that would take me astray would not have a chance to take root. That's all I do all the day. Am I thinking my imagination in a very light way? I don't make a big deal about it. And if I do, I just blankly cut it off. He says, It's the blank refusal to consider the convolutions and convolutions and convulsions of your mind, of the mind, that can take you beyond it. But my mind will say something. I'll say, "My God, this is right. This is good. I got to taste this. I got to do this." And I all day I say no to the mind, and it says, "Okay, he's not answering the door. I'm going to go bother somebody else." So yeah, I'm talking too much. I just want to give you my thoughts about thinking and how
That's great advice. Great advice.
Thank you for listening.
There's a spiritual teacher named Ken Wilber. You might have heard of him. He's a super intelligent guy, and he's got to be liberated or something. Because he's got a YouTube video where he sits on the edge of a bed, hooks up it's just a short video, hooks up a biofeedback machine to his head, I guess, and he stops his brain waves right there in a matter of seconds. And but that's besides the point. He has written many books, and he has developed this whole gigantic, complex map of the human mind and the soul and how it operates and all this stuff. And I'm not. I guess in my own way, I'm trying to make my own map, like Richard said. So, so I gotta watch my tendency to do that, and just like you say, I will be. I know mantra works also, so just I'm better off doing what the masters say. But I just think it's interesting that this guy Ken Wilber has built up. He's got a lot of followers. I mean, it's a beautiful thing, and I'm sure it increases a lot of people's awareness. But it might not be delivering them to the absolute. Has anybody else heard of Ken Wilber?
Yeah. Yes, I have. His map is called Aqual, AQUAL, and it has quadrants.
Yeah.
It is an interesting map, but it's all mental.
Yeah.
His main book is The Spectrum of Consciousness, I think, which is very academic, theoretical type of a guy, kind of like David Hawkins and these levels of consciousness,
Right, yeah.
It's my take on that. I'm sure he's done a lot of good, but he doesn't.
I guess it's good for beginners. I mean, it was great for me when I was beginning to get into this non-duality stuff. I read that book, Spectrum of Consciousness. It was one of his first, or maybe it was his first. And I had a lot of quotes from a lot of spiritual masters and stuff. But, I guess sooner or later you got to drop your old toys.
One thing a Christian mystic said is, "He is no fool who gives up what he cannot keep in order to gain what he cannot lose." A little toy, a little precious feeling stuff.
That was a little bit confusing. But,
I'll repeat it. He is no fool who gives up what he cannot keep in order to gain what he cannot lose.
And do you remember who said that?
His name is Jim Elliot. He was a Christian mystic who died in 1952, who was the husband of a very prominent Christian and contemporary writer named Elizabeth Elliot, who died about 3 or 4 years ago. When I think about my toys, it's like, I remember, again, what Sarkana said, moods of the mind and do not matter. They're simply things among other things. My mood will, or my mind will tell me, I got to have this thing, this pleasure, this toy. I can't do without it.
I could end up treating my spirituality as an addiction, you know?
And you can get addicted to the mantra. That's a good addiction.
That's kind of hard to get addicted to. You got to keep remembering it, and it doesn't seem to have any like pleasure in itself in just doing the mantra. I don't know.
That's still because there's a lot of you left over. You know, if you start erasing like a chalkboard and you get just a little bit of erasure, but you still have some cloudy chalk on the board, it's not a clean board, and you just have to keep going. The mantra doesn't give you pleasure because when you know yourself in a real sense, it explodes. And then everything that Nisargadatta Maharaj has said, Siddhara Mishra Maharaj has said, Ramakant Maharaj has said, every Ramana Maharshi has said, instantaneously you know you said it. You know. All of it is like Maharaj says, it's pointing to one thing, accept your selfless self. There's no God, there's no Brahman, there's no Atman, there's no Paramatman, there is no master, nothing is there. Now that is addressed to your selfless self, the invisible listener, who doesn't do all these little mind-created things. He's just inviting the attention of the invisible listener after you clear the field. After you clear the ash, the fire is burning brightly. So if mantra is difficult, okay, it's difficult in the beginning. But think about it, if somebody, you know, if somebody whispered in your ear and said, listen, we're going to put you up against a wall, and you're going to watch like 1,000 people get machine gunned. But when they come to you, if you say these words, the guys won't shoot you. You're like, whoop, that's pretty important, you know? So probably I got to remember I'm going to say these words. It's the same thing. The keys of the kingdom have been given to you by your own selfless self in another form. You say, these are the words, that's it. Just continue, keep with yourself. The mantra has tremendous power. The lineage is so incredibly powerful, it's not even funny. And everything that was spoken by any of the lineage masters came from your own selfless self. And as far as thinking goes, if the I am somebody else is thinking, oh, what a good trap that is. Finished. Until the I am somebody else is pulled out by the root. Because as soon as there's that feeling, that sense of presence, and it's identified with as, oh, I feel that, I am, I exist as this body, blah, 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 I have a life and a world and all this kind of stuff. This doesn't arise when you remain with your selfless self. That's what all the spiritual teachers are trying to say, is prior to I am. There's no sense of existence because there's nothing there. Like Maharaj says, just I, just I. There's no ability to sit there and say, I'm thinking this, or this is happening, or I don't want to think that, or this or that. There's no ability to do that because there's nobody there. There's nothing there. There's nothing. It's all spontaneous. No position is being taken, and mantra allows this to happen. So if I sit there and I say, and I've heard people even at the ashram say, well, you know, I don't like the mantra, or the mantra's a little difficult to say. I'd prefer to use my old mantra. Or somebody comes there, and this is incredible. I've been doing this mantra for 20 years. I don't know if I should do that mantra or if I should do the one that I just got from you. That's our lineage. You know what I'm saying? It's gold.
But it's possible for someone to be doing this mantra and probably not make progress for few years, or how many years
if
also.
That's the belief. If that's the belief. Just like the story that Maharaj just recently did at the ashram about the stone. Somebody says, oh, this is a stone. And then somebody goes, oh, I'll give you 1 rupee for it. And then he continues and he goes. Till finally he's at a jewelry store and the guy says, listen, this stone, I don't have enough money. This entire store wouldn't be able to buy that stone. It's the value that you place on it. That's why I gave the example of being machine gunned. If you line up the people against the wall and the guard whispers in your ear, listen, They're going to shoot one at a time, and when they get to you, just say this, and your life is saved. Except it's even more beautiful because Master has said, remain with your selfless self. Invite the attention of the invisible listener. It's not an exercise. You're actually erasing all the things that you are not so you can remain with what you are. No illusory concepts. There won't be any illusory concepts. And then you read I am that and you know it's my story, like Maharaj says. And the only time that you feel anything at all is the presence. And again, oh, look, this whole thing appeared on my spontaneous presence. It's absolutely illusion. No need to think about it. No need to play games with it. Nothing. I absolutely know that this body, it's a character in a show, in a drama. And sometimes it's crying, and sometimes it's happy, and sometimes it's sad, and this and that. Nothing is continuing, and the scene is constantly changing. And here we are again. Just like last weekend, I said, okay, we'll turn this off, and then we all go about our daily lives, and then, pop, here we are again. Here's another scene. Just another scene with nobody in it. And every scene just passes before you. How can you think about it if you're just like watching a slideshow? Okay, here's the new scene. We call that work. The label of this scene is work. Okay, here's the label, the commute. Here's the label of at home at dinner. Okay, here's the label of watching TV. Just scenes passing before you. And every time the heat's turned up, mantra. But no, I am somebody else. And when you feel the I am somebody else, the pressure from an I am somebody else, remain with your selfless self through mantra. Because the truth is, you are not body, you're not going to remain the body. The selfless self absolutely is not the body. This is just an illusory passing thing. There's no figuring it out. There's inviting the attention. And again, like we use the example of the mouse. Here's this mouse, and I'm in this mouse form, and I have this horrible mouse life, and I say, there got to be something more to being a mouse. And I remain. I stay. I go to Ramakant Maharaj Mouse, who says, I know I'm not a mouse. You're definitely not a mouse. No worries. Just remain with your selfless self. And then you, the dreamer that's dreaming the dream that you're a mouse, recognizes I'm not the mouse, and then continues about in the mouse dream in the body of a mouse without ever worrying, because I'm not a mouse. If I see the mouse body get snapped by a trap, oh, it's a little bit sad, whatever. But it's not me. That's the conviction, spontaneous conviction. I am not body. I was not body. I'm not going to remain the body. The thoughts that the mind that's connected with this body is presenting are all in form because they have to do with this form that I used to believe myself that I was, but I'm not. The mind flow identified with as my thoughts is no more, because how? And yet, for practical things, oh, John, can you show up Tuesday and do, like here, the little email comes out, show up Tuesday at 7:15. Okay, boom, boom. That's a thought, right? I show up, I click, and here we are. But there's no thinking of like all this process. Like Ramakant Maharaj says all the time, Nisargadatta Maharaj, Balsab Maharaj, Siddharameshwar Maharaj, they were not educated folks. They were simple folks. Their master said, you're Brahmin. That's it. You're initiated into this. Remain with your selfless self through mantra, meditation on your selfless self. And that's all you do. And they accepted. Somehow, some way, I accepted before even seeing Maharaj in physical form. I'm coming to the presence to surrender. I've given up. I don't want any maps or any ideas or anything. I just want what you say. What you say, put your hand on my head, whisper in my ear my true name. The name of this body is not me. Okay. It's now my responsibility to make sure that this is impressed. That when the world tries to impress, nope, I impress this I am not body. I was not body. I'm not going to remain the body. The mantra is my true name. The mantra is who I am. And then I remain one with the mantra, and the whole world starts to appear inside that mantra. And then I absolutely know I'm formless. And all of this form is just, who cares? Okay, do your job, do your duties, take care of your family and all the responsibilities. But there's no pressure, and there's no need to work it out.
That's pretty direct. But even Ramakant admitted that it took him I don't know how long. It didn't make any sense to him at first. For a while, he just kept coming or something to the meetings.
But the invisible listener that he is, that you are, continuously recorded, and then snap. That's it.
So of course, my tendency of my mind is it always wants to know where and how is it making this mistake that's preventing me from being where I want to be. But that just picks up, that starts the momentum into more.
I am somebody else thinking of a way out of this. Yeah, where the way out is that it is not. The more I give it to mind, the mind only knows what I've shown it. Again, the mind can only present ideas in form. That's why all the sages will say prior to beingness, there's no mind, because mind can't go there. Or they say bridging the gap. Because you, the selfless self, are prior to mind. The mind can't give you any ideas or concepts about yourself that are true, because the mind has never been there. It can only do like a recording of what I've seen from childhood till today is the world, and I'm creating these concepts based on that identity, what I've seen in the world. Now I'm trying to get rid of these concepts, but the one that's trying to get rid of the concepts is the mind.
It made me think you'd have to laugh at if you saw. I've been writing down for years. I've been writing down every thought that comes to my mind, and it's my practice of doing this. Keep opening past the next concept, and then see where the next concept takes me, and keep opening past that. I've written volume upon volumes of these notebooks I got laying around. And they just, it seems to be like there's some kind of progression going on, but it's been going on for years. So,
What's the progression about the character Keith inside the dream? And inside the dream, there can be an appearance of progress, because everything is just an appearance. But the dreamer himself, once he wakes up, it's no dream. Okay, that's it. So all the activity that occurred inside the dream was meaningless. Unless you have understood and identified yourself in a real sense. I am not body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain the body. Birth and death have related to the body. The body is a 5-element food body and has nothing to do with me. All the 5 elements are arising on my spontaneous presence. They're in that form world, and I am formless.
this is really a put down of me.
Well, I'm not trying to,
But it's funny because I make comments on internet sometimes on different stories, and I try to get people to pay attention to go beyond their own ideas of what they think. You see all these people put comments on stories. I don't know if you ever look at them, but I put there in the comment today that So well, I was talking, I made one comment about sharing and non-ownership. Then I went back on and made another comment stating that in support of this idea of no ownership, what is evidence of this is in comedy and humor. When you see humor and comedy like on shows and stuff, one of the common and popular ways to that humor is created is by making fun of somebody's own self. So I wrote down that, you know, if you become, this verifies that there is no own self. If you can laugh at yourself, then you can enter this what everybody can share, this humor, these the false pride, whatever. See what I'm saying? But so I'm laughing at myself along with this. So go ahead, laugh at me. So who knows how long it'll take me, but
Right now.
right.
I mean, right now, truly. Right now, just remain with yourself, the self. The next time you think about writing or think about commenting or think about anything, just remain with yourself, the self. The next time you think that you're going to do something, remain with yourself, the self. And the easiest way to remain with yourself, the self, is through mantra. And if the mantra is really tough with the words or whatever, practice makes, keep going, keep going, keep going. Even if it's just before bedtime, remaining with yourself, the self, through mantra, because you don't sleep. So these different states that are appearing on your spontaneous presence, mantra will still continuously run. The mantra of just breathing in and breathing out is a natural sound that the mantra is making in nature all the time, spontaneously. And I remember, because a couple of years ago, when people would comment on the Facebook posts that I would put, and I was just like, okay, whatever. And then I told Maharaj, I said, yeah, I don't put these things up anymore because people just want to comment and this. He said, well, disable comments. I said, well, I don't think you can do that in Facebook. And sure enough, you can't. And then he said, which was very nice and right in the moment for what I needed, he said, don't comment on anything. Just don't comment. Like whether good comment, bad comment, whatever, just don't get involved. Allow the people to go and do their commenting and posting and all this kind of stuff. You post and finish. And you don't look, you don't, just post and finish. No commenting. Somebody says, oh, very great post, good. And somebody says, oh, terrible crap post. Or the people who like to say, well, this is my concept. No, this is my concept. No, this is my concept. Oh, yeah, then there's this is my concept. My concept's better than your concept, and I'm willing to fight you and disturb my peaceful state in order to prove my concept that I'm believing in. Because, see, once the selfless self believes in a concept, as Nisargadatta Maharaj says, as soon as you speak a concept into existence, it creates an entire universe. And it creates an entire universe on the idea of the concepts that are being built on it. One concept is not just by itself. And the root, the seed concept, I am somebody else, that I am not Brahman. Or I am Brahman, saying it as someone who was believing they're Brahman, rather than knowing it's Brahman that's saying I'm Brahman, using the form and the instrument of John as a voice box or a sound box to say I'm Brahman. But see, if I'm Brahman, odds are I don't have to say I'm Brahman. If I'm the formless everything and I realize myself in a real sense, and there are no illusory layers, then there's no need to say anything because I know the entire thing is an illusion. all the characters that are still believing themselves to not yet be Brahman are Brahman. So what is the problem? And that's what Maharaj talks about with the elephant and the blind. The blind, he goes to the leg, he goes to the trunk, he goes to the tail. Everybody says their own part, and they're right. And the one who's standing back and sees the whole elephant is not, if the one says, oh, it's like this, okay, it's good, good, good. But at the same time, if one asks the question, is it only like this? Is there more that I'm not seeing? Which is the inquiry, who am I? Is there something that I'm not seeing? Rather than just my belief is, because I've felt this, I've experienced this experience, this concept really resonates with me, and that's the finish, the end all. But then Maharaj says, I am sitting here seeing the entire elephant. Let me show you the entire elephant. Let me show you your selfless self. I am inviting intention of the invisible listener that accept your selfless self. There's no God, no Brahman, no Paramatman, no Master. Nothing is there. All these things that are appearing on your spontaneous presence are illusory. They're something within the nothing. And will return to nothing because they always were nothing. It's just the appearance of something. And the false appearance of something in the nothing with concepts believed in creates a world.
Yeah. I remember when I was a child, about 10 years old, I just had this strong sense that every person was a whole universe within themselves. That was like one of the beginnings of my philosophy.
Well, and you could do it the other way too, that everybody is an empty shell, that you, the selfless self, are animating. It's a one-man show. You're jumping. If you conceptualize, you're jumping between all the different forms that if you pulled out of, like right now, this form, if presence, the selfless self, pulled out of this form, whoop, dead body. Same with yours. And then yet, if presence jumped back in and spoke, but while the speaking was here, that form dropped. You see? But it's spontaneously occurring that the one selfless self, absolutely formless. Absolutely formless, meaning what? There is no way to say all of everything, and there's nothing other.
Yeah.
All the other is created through the concept that I'm a body. I'm something other than what I am. And this body that I'm believing that I am is in a world that I'm believing is my world. But the truth is, it's empty bodies, empty forms. And we talked about this before. If you get into an argument with someone and you see, okay, if the presence was pulled out of that form and the presence was pulled out of this form, you have two dead bodies. So if the presence goes back, takes the touch of the body and is able to speak and use the body, then the one I'm having the argument with is the same presence that's in this body. Absolutely. It's just known. The same presence in this body is in that body, speaking to its own self, based on the way it's identifying itself with the mind flow and the identification with the mind flow as my thoughts, my actions, my beliefs, all of this kind of stuff. But it's all you. All of it. Like they talked about in Bhagavad Gita about nobody's dying in this war. You're not killing anyone. It's all you. All of it. The formless presence is in all the forms on the battlefield, doing what they're doing, and the bodies are 5-element bodies, a conglomerate of gunk of the 5 elements that, by being fed, kept growing. And at one time will deteriorate and go back into the 5 elements. But you are not concerned with this. You are the formlessness that's seemingly animating these forms.
And I guess you can't really advance your own cause of, say, if you tried to take this knowledge and say, then I can do anything I want to anybody.
But it's all you. There's nobody else but you.
Right. It's like it's got a built-in non-self reality to it.
Because there's no other. Unless there's an I am somebody else, then there can be other, because you have a point, a reference. Here's me, here's the computer. Here's me, here's the bottle. Here's me, here's the sink. There's a me in it. And without that sense of presence of I am somebody else, no, it can't be. That's what, many people will say, oh, well, if you could do whatever you wanted, you'd do this or that. But there's no you doing. You know this. You're in this form world through body. Like Maharaj says, present, click with the body, and you say, I. This is a dead body. Presence leaves this body even for a moment. Take it away, burn it or bury it. So it's not a matter of conflict. How can there be conflict? It's just you. And because there's no I am somebody else in form, every form you meet is just a scene. And again, when you know yourself in a real sense, nothing is happening. Nothing can be happening. This space in this room, what's happening to this space? I'm here, I'm not here, this body's there, this is there, I'm cooking, I'm eating, but nothing is happening to the space. The space is not affected by the objects inside the space. You, the selfless self, the formless presence, you are the knower of the formless sense of presence that everything is arising on, and you have nothing to do with it. Mind tries to identify with thoughts in the stream of thoughts, but all of the thoughts have to do with form. You still do your job, do your duties, you take care of your responsibilities, you go, you do this, you do that, but absolutely how can the formlessness be doing anything? How can the space in this room be doing anything? No matter what's done inside the room, the space in this room is remaining. It's still, it's not doing anything. And you're more subtle than space because you can perceive space. Steve, have you gotten the self-love book, the Nisargadatta book?
Yeah, I was up in Silver Spring, wherever it was, a year or two ago.
No. Self-Love just came out like a couple months ago. The Nisargadatta book.
Oh, yeah, I think I do have it, actually.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I was going to say that's kind of a little bit deeper, higher knowledge, so to speak, than I Am That, because that's what was said to the Marathi devotees that were with Maharaj, other than just in the I Am That, where it was the general kind of thing. And there's a lot of good stuff there.
Okay, yeah, I looked at it, got it in December, actually.
Yep, that's it. Yep.
All right, well, I looked at it and I check out things, but I keep going back to, even though it's not advanced, I Am That, since I just like that edition.
No, it's not that it's not advanced. It's that this self-love book was from the Marathi. It originally was just in Marathi and was just recently made into English. And it's like the script that was passed around in the ashram to the Marathi-speaking devotees. So it's a little bit deeper, and it also bridges the gap between how I Am That is speaking and how Maharaj is speaking now. And you can see like the more subtle aspects, I guess.
Sometimes I have trouble even carrying out the grosser aspects, much less the more subtle,
Okay.
But I know where you're coming from. I'll take a look at it again. It's like I don't really have any questions. It's like I know what I think. It's like about what happened to do, He says, do what you are told to do and what you need to do, and the next step will be revealed. Don't worry about it. The problem is you may shirk it. That's really what I look at. I'm shirking what I know to be true, what I know to. But, yeah, I'll take a look at it again just to, It's like so many people concern themselves with the gray areas of life and decisions, and it's like God's up there saying, "Look, I told you not to do these things, and you do them. You do these things, and you don't do them." I'm only talking about the gray area, So that's kind of, to me, I Am That is just it's not the gray. It's like let me do this first, then I can go to the next higher levels. It just appeals to me, And he says, it doesn't really matter what path, as long as it's a qualified path, whatever one appeals to you. Work that with earnestness, have conviction, doing it, that'll work. Anyway, so I just like everything really simple. But I appreciate, again, your mentioning this. He says, very few have the courage to trust the simple and the innocent. Not that I'm saying I have that, but I aspire to have that. Doesn't mean you can't look at other sources and do this tonight and read other books. Obviously.
I have a simple question, John. Can the selfless self know itself, or is that all it knows?
The sense of presence you're the knower of. When you know yourself in the real sense, you're diving into that presence that you are. And that's how the automatic detachment happens, because I am not body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain the body. So all of this body, all the needs, all the requirements, like Maharaj says, came along with the body. All of this form world is because of the body. Knowing yourself in the real sense is this knowing, this that sense of presence that you are the knower of. You're the formless knowledge, the formless knower of this sense of presence. And presence is like the aroma of your own selfless self.
So there's like nothing to know outside of itself.
Again, that's why the no experience, no experiencer is, because the selfless self is all there is.
Yeah, because it's just showing up in different forms. It's just.
But only in the illusion. Just like in Das Boot, it says the world is created in the illusion, in the primal illusion, which was movement in nothing. It created this, and then the 5 elements and all this kind of stuff. But the reality is none of this is happening. Nothing has ever happened. Nothing will ever happen, because it's space. All the occurrences that are occurring inside of space, but space is absolutely not concerned with the occurrences going on inside of it. If space was alive, like they talk about prana and the life force, if this space was alive and seeing and actively being with all of the things inside of it, but then when the things inside of it were gone, the space is still the space.
But space is sort of meaningless unless there's objects.
Well, and that's the whole idea. Without, again, if you say one, then there has to be another. There has to be two, naturally.
That's why it's Advaita.
There's nothing. No other anything except your selfless self. Where all experience ends, there you are. All the end of everything is you.
Yep. Space, like you always say, space doesn't know it's space.
Exactly. And Maharaj says, if at all you want to compare yourself to sky or space. Space doesn't know it's space, sky doesn't know it's sky, and nothing is affecting these two things.
Then that sort of invalidates knowledge entirely.
Of course. Knowledge is just to know yourself in a real sense. All the books and all that kind of stuff are just little breadcrumbs to your own selfless self. And once you reach yourself, throw all these books away, because you're there. You've touched your own selfless self. Now, as Nisargadatta Maharaj would say, remain with the I am. Continue as sin. And all the secrets will be revealed. The revealing is that you are the knower of the sense of presence, the knower of the sense of I am, and all of that appeared on you. You're the final truth. That's it. Nothing in back of that. Whereas all the concepts, you keep removing the concepts, there's always something in back of it. But when you reach, I think Maharaj talks about the onion. Same thing, layers, 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 but inside there's nothing in the onion. And once you peel away all the layers, you are your own selfless self. So that's the whole thing, is that you know yourself in a real sense, so that when it comes time to leave the body, there is no experience and there's no thought process of I am dying.
It's really quite a thing to be totally unattached. I mean, you know.
Because the I am somebody else, the root has been pulled out.
Yeah.
The branches certainly can't grow if the tree has been pulled out by the root. But if you prune the tree, of course, new branches can grow, and the trunk is still very healthy. And if you cut the trunk even and remain with the roots, if the roots are strong enough, they can grow additional little whatever they call those little thingies. You know, you've seen it like green that's popped out of the trunk. They can do that. But if you tear the root, if you pull the tree out by the root, the I am somebody else, then there's no branches, no leaves, no nothing. And Master plants the plant of reality in your selfless self. Because the
irony is that you can't do that, though, because there's no you. So the mantra has to do it, I guess.
Well, and the idea, too, is that you, as long as you're believing that you're a separate form, you appear to yourself in another form and tell you it's finished. Remain with your selfless self through mantra. Mantra will erase these concepts. Use one concept to delete the other concept. And then once I am somebody else is there, mantra is kind of finished, because there's nothing there to do mantra. Mantra is spontaneous because you and the mantra are one. That's why there's no longer mantra. It's you, just you.
I don't know. I don't really think it ever gets finished as long as the body is present. I've heard, there's no real end to the journey until the body drops.
But there's no you. There's no I am somebody else. There's not, again, it's the difference between playing a role and this is my life.
Oh, okay.
This is a pretty huge difference.
Yeah.
Playing the role, I'm untouched by all the things that are going on around because I know myself in a real sense. This cannot be my life. It can't be. I'm the character that's doing my job to the fullest ability. But I don't take the touch of world because there's not an I am somebody else in it. And then the devotion is spontaneous devotion to your selfless self in using form with, oh yes, bowing to the master's pictures, because your devotion is unbelievable, because all of this is your own selfless self. You are the absolute. Except your selfless self. There's no Brahman, no God, no Paramatma, no master. Nothing is there. Just you. And you is not a you of one. It's you. The whole universe, the whole everything is you. It's appearing on your spontaneous presence. And once you know yourself in a real sense, everything that's appearing on your spontaneous presence is absolutely just instantaneously discarded. Not saying that even in a role, you're playing your role, you're doing what you're doing to the best of your ability, but it's discarded. There's no, how is this going to be, and what is this going to happen, and how is this going to work, and mind, and all that. It's just not there. I guess that's when, you talk about until the death of the body, but the body is not the issue. It's the you that believes in the body, and the you that believes in the body dies because there is no I am somebody else. It's just.
That's why they say to die before you die.
Yeah, it's just a spontaneous, again, scenes passing before you.
Yeah. You don't attach.
And there's not a lot of interest. There's not a lot of attachment. There's not a lot of anything in the scene. It's just a scene. And there's not worrying about how I am in the scene or how other people are thinking of me or what this person is doing, because it's not there. There's nobody there.
Yeah, the joke, right?
And every time you feel like there might be somebody there, just remain with your selfless self, and then you start to see, oh yeah, that's right. It's in the form world. I'm formless. If I'm the knower of the sense of this formless presence, then how in the world can I be some gross object? It doesn't even make sense. The gross object is from the 5 elements. It's a form, an empty form, that all of this is appearing on presence. Presence is formless. Every thought will be approaching in form. Every thought that this mind is thinking, that you're believing is my mind and my thoughts, will be in form. And you, knowing yourself in a real sense, remaining with your selfless self, won't be attracted to that at all.
Yeah, I love how you can't use the mind to go beyond the mind.
Because the mind only knows the form world. It's a recorder.
Yeah.
From childhood until today, it's recorded. It's taken the photographs of all these different things, and that's how it's in the circle of body knowledge. But you, the selfless self, are not in the circle of body knowledge. You're prior to the mind, ego, intellect, because you're prior to the body.
Right.
You didn't know yourself until you clicked with the body, because you're everything, you're all. There's nothing. So when you clicked with the body, then you began to know yourself. And then mind, ego, intellect, you started to know these things. And then the picture was taken of the surroundings, and the mind started to say, this I never want to experience again. This I definitely want more of. And then the kind of manipulation of, let's not do so much of this. I got to remain away from this, but I want more of that. And the pain and pleasure principle came into effect, and the I am somebody else began to fear and desire. So then the thought train of, I don't want this, how do I avoid that? The mind, you give that to mind, and mind says, yeah, let's avoid this. So then again, you are providing the energy to the mind that you're believing in more and more and more, because it's putting more and more illusory concepts, and you're getting lost down the rabbit hole of concepts, and you forget yourself. You forget that, wait a minute, and that's why the mantra just is subtle a reminder, like whispering in the ear. This whole form world is not for you. Enjoy it, play, but it's not like a big end all. When this body falls, okay, bye-bye.
But like the major fear is the fear of annihilation, though.
Yeah, but once you know yourself in a real sense, you'll see that the I am somebody else appeared on you.
Yeah.
I think it's, we talked about before, I don't need this beingness. This beingness, this sense of presence, I was there prior to it, or I would not have noticed it appearing. So therefore, if there was nothing other than the prior to beingness, then you wouldn't have that. Beingness couldn't have appeared. There has to be something there in which something is then added on to. And it's, I am somebody. Well, first, I am. I exist. Then I exist in this form. Then this form is labeled John. Then John has a job, and John has a life, and John is in this world, and John sees good things in the world and bad things in the world as they relate to this form John, which is just a piece on the chessboard that the selfless self is moving about.
Yeah. And John thinks he's doing it.
Exactly. And John gets moved over here and then cries, oh my God, I can't believe I'm over here. Then they get moved over there. Oh, good. Now everything's going good again.
Yeah, the way I think of that is I cannot generate a thought. So thoughts just come, and then I'm going, but I'm not generating the thoughts. So therefore, I'm not the author of the actions. Because you can go to memory and you can go to imagination, but that's not creating a thought. Thoughts just arrive. And then that's how I get to, oh, okay, I didn't originate that thought. Therefore, and then action follows thought. So that's how it happens.
Well, and again, the idea is that when the I am somebody else is no more, thoughts lose interest, and that thought factory closes down.
Yeah.
There's no longer purchasing thoughts and putting thoughts into action and all this kind of stuff. It's really spontaneous. There's not a thought train of how this is or how I need to respond, because there's not a me to respond.
Yeah, I get the spontaneousness, because sometimes you think you know what you're going to do in a particular day, and all of a sudden the phone rings and you got to do something else. So you didn't plan that,
Exactly.
It's all, spontaneous.
Exactly. It's all is reality is everything is spontaneous, but there's a thought process and a continuity based on the I am somebody else doing something. Again, going back to prior to beingness, were you doing anything? No. How? How does the formlessness do anything? Well, it does through form. That's it. But you, the selfless self, are not actually doing anything. The characters in your dream are moving about and doing their things. You absolutely are motionless. Nothing. All of this is occurring, and you're totally out of it. That's the you that you are at the, quote, absolute level. Except your selfless self, there's no God, no Brahman, no Atman, no Paramatman, no Master, nothing is there. For a time, there appears to be something in the nothing. The something made the appearance on nothing, and then there was an appearance and an involvement in the appearance and a belief that I'm something in that appearance that is absolutely nothing and will remain and dissolve back into nothing.
And recognizing that you're the nothing is what gives you the peace upon the expiration of the body.
Yeah, because you never were the body.
No.
You never were this person. You never were all this kind of stuff. It never happened. There never was a world. None of this ever happened. The entire reason that you clicked with the body and said I was to know yourself in a real sense. That's it. Know yourself in a real sense, because all knowledge is useless. Everything you've ever learned is useless after leaving the body. How? You're going to take it with you? No. But you know yourself in a real sense. So at time of leaving the body, there is not the thought, I am dying. There can't be, because you know. I know myself in a real sense. Just like, is the breath dying when the last breath is going out of this body? No. Was the breath born when the first breath came into the body, when you got smacked on your butt and started to cry? No.
Well, where did it come from then? Or you say there is breath
everywhere. It's no coming, it's no going.
You're saying there's breath without the body?
Well, air is the same. Air is all around you, yes?
Yeah.
The air that I'm breathing in and breathing out in this form is the same air that you're in your house, wherever you are. You may be in a different country, I don't know. But you're breathing in and breathing out basically the same air. So that air is coming in this body and out this body and in your body and out that body and in your body and out your body. But air is everywhere. And sky is everywhere. And space is everywhere.
Both in and out.
Yes. Of course, just like the pot. If you break the pot, the space inside the pot and the space outside the pot are the same. Or like Maharaj uses the example all the time. If the ashram fell to the ground, does the toilet, sky, or space go to hell, and the ashram, sky, or space go to heaven? It's all space.
In a way that removes the idea of the in and out of breath, but also, I suppose, I mean, it's whether in and out, I guess, I don't know, it's hard to distinguish.
I mean, the body, this can be seen, this can be experienced. Breath is going in and breath is going out. You know, it comes in, it fills up the lungs expand. The form is expanding because the lungs are taking in air and then expelling air. So an air is everywhere. So the same with the first breath and the last breath, the breath is not dying. You are everywhere. When you're leaving the body, there's no place for you to go. Just like the mouse body dies, the dreamer is dreaming, and there's nowhere for that nothing. It's all in the dream. This is a long dream. I am somebody else who I believed at one time was a person in a world, that there was a world, and that I was actually taking part in it and doing things and had a mother and had a father and had son and had a job and all this stuff, which for a time, it's fine. I'm here and do. But I know that it's absolutely not true. It's absolutely in the illusion, because I know myself in a real sense. That formless sense of presence does not have children.
Myself doesn't want to be nothing. I can't accept, somehow I can't accept that I can be nothing, or I don't want to accept that I can be nothing. But I guess...
Well, you're everything then.
Knowing that you are nothing is wisdom. Knowing you're everything is love.
Right,
and that's
right.
Vedanta.
Yeah, and the book, Nothing is Everything.
Right. I got that one too.
You're not anything individual. You're not any kind of, like we talked about the ecosystem. All is just the total functioning inside the dream. You, the selfless self, are just, you are the formless, and all of this is appearing on your spontaneous presence. Or you could say you are the unmanifest, and all of this is manifest. But you're neither the unmanifest nor the manifest, because you're outside of the whole thing. All of this is appearing on your spontaneous presence.
Like the dream.
Exactly. And that's why if in your dream, if you were dreaming tonight that you were super, super famous and everything was wonderful and all this kind of stuff, and then you woke up tomorrow and you know it's just a dream, then what does it matter? You can have a whole family and enjoy the family inside the dream. You know, maybe you're in the dream, you're visiting people who have passed away, and you get to go out fishing with them, or you go on a boat and you have a good time, you have a picnic, but when you wake up in the dream, you know it's not real. It's the same. Do your job, do your duties, take care of all your responsibilities, all the family members that came along with this body that are also only food bodies made of the 5 elements, and be there. But know that none of this is actually happening. And when you sit there and you say, well, wait a minute, does that mean that my life didn't amount for anything? But there was no life. There is no life. You are life. You are the formless sense of presence that all of this is appearing on, through, in, whatever you want to talk about. You can't even really say that because it's all of everything. You are everything because you're nothing. The something appeared in nothing and will dissolve back into nothing. And the spontaneous conviction is, I am not body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain the body. Body is not my identity. Using this instrument, and this instrument happens to be the key to this form world to move about and do things in this form world. But no matter what is done, nothing's being done.
You could almost say like the manifest world is like a second-hand world that doesn't really exist on its own.
Well, you're the support of everything. Everything is appearing on your spontaneous presence, and everything that's seen is absolutely illusion. That's why you remain with your selfless self. You know, the Bible talks about remaining with things that rust or storing up your treasures in heaven. Same thing. You are remaining with your selfless self, and all the world will rust and fade away. It's all made of the 5 elements, and the Das Bod talks about how the elements just fade back into each other. Of course, it begins with, this is how the illusion is. Well, what's illusion? Illusion is something that is not. Maya is not there. But inside the illusion, these 5 elements fold back into each other, and it's finished. And this is an elemental body, 5 elements. The gunk created this body. This body had a lifespan of, you know, just like the expiration date on your hot dogs in the fridge. Eventually, this body starts to break down and return to the 5 elements.
It says it folds back into itself. Is that what you said?
The elements.
They fold.
Das Bod goes through a whole thing. But again, remember, it always starts with, there is nothing but Brahman.
Yeah.
Inside the nothing that was Brahman, there was movement that created wind. And then it goes on to say wind and air and fire and all the different elements. And it talks about how they were all created from the nothing, because there is nothing other than your selfless self. But in this nothing, in the appearance, this is how the appearance came about. And the dissolution of the universe is then all of these elements fading back into each other. However, the dissolution of the universe can also be done by discrimination, which means my formlessness or form, unmanifest or manifest. And then the dissolution of the universe is done through discrimination, and it's not needed to go through the whole, you know, this remained with this, and then the earth turned to dust, and then this and that. Or I'm formless, this is form, can't be for me. Thoughts that the mind is presenting can't be for me. The idea that I'm somebody else can't be for me.
It reminded me of origami, though. I saw this program on origami and how it's being used in so many ways. It's like just the folding and unfolding kind of made me think of that.
But again, that's an illusion because it's form. The easiest way to get rid of the illusion is through discrimination. Knowledge. Knowledge means to know myself in a real sense. I know myself in a real sense. This is not myself. Boop, discard. Still go to the job, still do the work and all that, but I'm not so attached. I'm not so dependent that, oh my God, when this thing, I've put my whole identity, I put my whole personality, I put my whole life into this job, and now I don't have it. You see, but if you're formlessly aware of yourself and your surroundings and these doings, but you know yourself in a real sense, then these happenings are not happening to you.
I will take your advice and try to philosophize less, because I always want to find the how it works.
But see, it's practical. Forget about intellectual, practical. Practical is the next moment when there could be philosophizing, thinking, moving, anything like that. I remain with my selfless self. If I can't remain with my selfless self because that I am somebody else is really buzzing and concepts are being created, I use that to mantra. I let the horses go out, I have to pull the horses back in. I let this, I have to pull back in. Pull back in on the reins, basically. And that is through mantra. Oh yeah, there's an I am somebody else, I'm getting lost in the world. Mantra, remain with my selfless self. You have to be serious about this, because you, the selfless self, inviting the attention of the invisible listener, must be ceaselessly. You know, that has to be the all, be all, end all of every single thing. You are the projector of the entire world. So as this world is being projected based on ideas and beliefs you may be holding about yourself in an individual form that causes a thought train to come that is identified with as my thoughts, that's the world you're seeing. So you need to just trust. Have complete faith in the master, complete faith in your selfless self. You take one step, you know the master's taking the next step, and then eventually there's walking, but no one walking. There's talking, but no one that's talking. There's hearing, but no one that's hearing. And even the ideas that I'm hearing through these ears will kind of get turned, because there won't be any kind of body knowledge. There won't be any kind of body identity. There's nothing that tells me I'm in a body when the movement is occurring.
So I'm not going to say I'm glad I came tonight, because that'll be just shoot the whole thing to hell.
No, I mean, the idea is here, and I just posted something for the Maharaj said that was really powerful when somebody said, why is it that I get this profound presence when I go to Nisargadatta Maharaj's Samadhi, the little, stone thing or whatever? And Maharaj says, because it's your own selfless self. You're not thinking about you. You're not having this body knowledge on you. You're one with your environment. So you're one with your selfless self. So the sense of presence is very strong because there's nothing blocking between you two. And the guy keeps saying, yeah, but it's such a powerful thing. Because the whole idea about satsang or any kind of experience like this is that you are focused on your selfless self. The entire time is just focused on your selfless self, the invisible listener. inviting the attention of the invisible listener constantly. But not attaching it as I'm somebody getting something from someone else. Maharaj talks about that all the time too. You know, somebody, they come, you don't want to form a something of this is happening or this is causing to happen. The idea is that the selfless self is here. And I guess even in the Bible, it talks when two or more together, there I am. It's the same. These whole concepts of one-pointedness. Yes, I want to know my selfless self. Yes, I'm concentrating on the selfless self. You can feel that sense of presence being back and forth because it's you, because it's your atmosphere, because you're inviting the attention of the invisible listener. You are not body, you were not body, you're not going to remain the body. Body's not your identity. Accept your selfless self. There's no God, no Brahman, no Atman, no Paramatman, no master. It's just you.
Oh, it's 9 o'clock.
Indeed.
On that note, we should bid adieu.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks, John.